Alright, time for another draftphysics.com video presentation. Okay, this video should be on YouTube because I hoped not to say anything questionable. Anyway, so I did make some good videos, and I will continue to make good videos, I think. So especially the last one regarding, I think it's called something about Piro or something. Let me see, Piro sucks or something. It's in the title. Not bad. Then I did a series of response videos to the comments on Piro's video by all the assholes, Brozo most particularly. And then there's the Brozosian lies and, you know, Brozosian logic, all good videos. And then some slit stuff brought up by some commenter. So, yeah, hard to choose which one's the best. Lots of good stuff in there. So anyway, so yes, this will be another Brozo video. So, you know, what's been revealed as the truth is that this idiot. So he's had an air track for a while. So a lot of these arguments could be now completely moot because he would have proof of, you know, good solid piece of experiment. Can't screw it up too much. And instead of posting the video of those experiments done with an air track, again, you can think of just all kinds of, you know, spring experiments you can do with an air track that are really good because you really don't have to worry about air resistance and you don't have to worry about friction and tumbling or some other bullshit. So you're going to get pretty good results. And so instead of showing us the experiment done well with a device made and engineered strictly for this purpose, it's completely engineered for the single purpose of eliminating all the defects that could take place in how you perform other experiments. Instead of showing us that video, he puts up this piece of steaming crap that he obviously had already made, and he just waiting, you know, or maybe not waiting. Maybe decided not to put the video up because it is pretty stupid. Okay, it's obviously another flawed Brozo video. So it's like, you know, these people, you know, they might as well say whatever, propaganda incorporated, right? We know the truth because we fucked it. That's pretty good. That's it. He's just saying, I can do physics just as bad as Madame Chartelet. I can steer you know, the science crooked just as well as those characters. Now, he obviously isn't very compelling, so he isn't networked, and he's a silly person, so yeah, he's not going to persuade too many people that have any kind of logical brain. But yeah, that's his ambition, to be just as unfair to the science, to do his propaganda. So he's made a couple of different, like his usual typical bullshit. He's crammed all this crap in one video, and it's all disorganized and sloppy and all over the place. And so I'll highlight the pieces that are I consider relevant. I haven't listened to the video, I have to admit. It's full of his bullshit rhetoric, his lies, his horseshit. It's just useless. A bunch of quote mining and clip playing, that kind of horseshit. So at least there's no porn or music in it, but it's still shit because he's in it. You know, so yeah, you know, it's just about unwatchable in my opinion. And it's all filmed in shit vision. So you know, you can afford 14 rolls of aluminum foil and all kinds of crap, all kinds of hardware, all kinds of electronic devices, all kinds of shit he can afford, but he can't afford a $20, you know, flip cam or something. You know, so he could get at least 30 frames per second or something in his video, or a light bulb. He can't afford those, but he can afford all this other hardware. All right. I mean, you can just see it's filmed in shit vision. I mean, it's, what is this, 1964? Yeah. So anyway, I'm just going to play this little end clip where, you know, the big reveal is, and you're just like, okay, so all this is just nonsense. You know, all of this bullshit, like he's proving something or demonstrating something or doing science, it's just all bullshit.
Look at you. Didn't even get a chance to show you the air track working. We've got light out there. Oh well.
So why bother publishing a video with a crappy, shooting frisbees? Actually, so he says that I suggested an experiment where you shoot frisbees off a ledge, okay, and find out how far they go. No, I never suggest. I didn't suggest that. That's not what I drew. See, when I drew something round, I wasn't even talking about throwing frisbees sideways. Okay, I was thinking about spherical objects because, frankly, they don't have a lot of air resistance problem. I mean, you can take two objects that have different sizes, even, a big round sphere and a little sphere, and you could drop them, and they'll drop pretty much the same speed. I mean, they'll hit the ground pretty much at the same time. It's not going to be a huge difference, because they're they have a good airfoil. But that's not what he did. So he says it's my idea, and yet he does it in the Brozosian way that I never even anticipated, using a pen, a big pen spring. You couldn't be more, So obviously the air track, he could stick his little pen on it and shoot the two carts and do a really professional type experiment. Instead, he chose to play 40 minutes of absolute irrelevant moot bullshit. I mean, the air track makes any of those little rickety experiments you're going to do moot and irrelevant and useless because it does it so much better. So why don't you just show us the air track experiments? So let's just understand, he's invested in it. Look, he's got this electronic hardware, he's got all this shit, and he hasn't shown us anything. And he's had it for maybe 2 months. I haven't heard any counter argument. Maybe 3 months, maybe 4, who knows? And he hasn't shown us anything. Is this a person trying to honestly reveal the truth? Or is this a propagandist, okay, who's only going to show us what works to his favor? So, just like your black hole creators, okay, we only accept data that looks like a black hole, right? Just like the science of the 1700s, we'll just show the experiments that, prove our point. We'll hide the ones that don't. That's the science you're all applauding. Yes, give me more propaganda. You're pathetic. I'm sorry. I have a pathetic audience. The YouTube community is pathetic. All these flat earth debunkers are pathetic. You're all pathetic. Pathetic. Yeah, I don't need to draw yet. Alright, so we'll play the video in another form because we're not going to play all his crap that's in the video. So I need to find the video player. No, I don't even need to, I don't think. I think it'll show up even if I don't have it loaded. Well, we'll find out any minute now. There it is. But I can't hit the buttons unless it's available. That's not it. Okay. So, that should be it. Alright. Just so irritating. Alright, so his first argument is that photons are magnetic, okay, and they're obeying Lenz's law. So Lenz's law is a phenomenon, it's not a law. Alright, and the fact is that when a magnet goes by metals, okay, most all metals, what it'll do is induce a circumstance in the metal. That is, it'll change the atoms in the metal as it goes by and make them magnetic. And the magnetism will be opposite of what happens with iron filings when they're exposed to magnets. So when an iron filing is exposed to a magnet, it orients in the opposite orientation. The poles are opposite. But in Lenz's law, what happens is it's sympathetic. And you can sort of understand why, because it's not taking an atom and rotating it. Okay, what it's doing is taking electrons and moving them back, or it's taking electrons and pulling them forward. So you can understand that the electrons are going in front of the protons, or the electrons go behind the protons. And so if you're exposing it to, electron pressure, you can have the expectation that the other side is going to react to the electron pressure, and vice versa. And so it ends up being a repulsive. You get back what you push in. you push in extra electrons, it pushes them back at you, essentially. So it's a reflection, sort of, you could argue, a reflection of the magnetic field. So it pushes things away. All right, so anyway, so he's using that to defend some idea that photons are doing this. All right, so let's understand there's zero evidence that a photon can ever be bent by magnetism, and the closest you can come is you can change the polarization of light by putting it through a substance, that is, putting it through atoms, and you can expose the atoms to a magnetic field, and you'll change the atoms enough to change the polarization of the light. But that's it. So that's the most connection there is between photons and magnetism, which is just about zero. So there's no hope that this is any Lenz's law thing. This isn't a Lenz's law function. You can also just defeat this argument with the argument I'm making from the very beginning, is that this notion, okay, that the point source is the opening in the slit, is retarded. Okay, so if he just uses the single impediment, he'll find that, oh, it doesn't work, because they don't turn the way he would, what's necessary for his theory, okay, to have any real integrity. In the sense that what lenses, well, you can't do it because frankly it won't go around the object. All right, but the ones that go around the periphery will be pushed away. Okay, that would be the theory. They won't be pushed in towards, because he doesn't have the second magnet next to it, in a sense. So he's using the copper is inert, the ball is a magnet, and he's not even clever enough, right, to do what you would say, the simplest thing he could have done, which is just paint the magnet so you can see the poles of the magnet. Because depending on how you send the poles in, you can just defeat Lenz's law. But he doesn't show that, which is typical, because he's a dupe and a fool and an idiot. All right, we don't need that. Okay, so all right, so I don't think I should have to make an argument about how it's not Lenz's law, because there's absolutely no evidence that any part or any piece or any element of a photon is ever moved by anything called magnetism. Just no evidence of it. That they're even affected by anything like charge. There's no way to bend a light beam. There's a silly notion that gravity does it, okay, but they really don't have any evidence of that either, frankly. In the 100 years since the Eddington experiment, they haven't produced any experiment that is compelling in its proof. But as I have pointed out, the whole thing is defeated by just understanding that the slit experiment, the double slit especially, it's impossible to explain it with these kinds of stupid theories about anything, any notion, okay, that, as if in his drawing, that anything is doing this, okay, that there's waves coming out doing this, all right, that this has anything to do with the pattern. So Stephen Bro will never draw anything. He'll never show us any kind of diagram demonstrating how this could possibly work. He won't play this section of a video and explain how, oh wait, Gary, you got that wrong. The two sources do work. So there's no mathematics. No one uses this mathematical distance. No one. So the very idea that it's a two-source experiment fails. Doesn't work. Can't be. It doesn't get the right answer. It doesn't get... So here's the pattern the two slit will create if you don't have infinitesimally small distances. So as long as you don't make the single impediment infinitesimally small, that is a wire that's 1/2000th of a millimeter, a really, 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 really thin wire, or a really preposterously thin slit, okay, 1/2000th of a millimeter. As long as you have something bigger than that, you're going to get this kind of pattern. You're going to get a group in the middle, then you're going to get nothing. So there's nobody's home here. All right, and then you're going to get a group of, that's going to be half the number of that. Okay, so it's going to be, if this was 5, it will be either, I think, 2, or it might be 3. No, it's 3 because they overlap. See, that's the giveaway. You have 3 over here, and you'll have, you can, obviously these numbers can be, you can have 11 here, you can have 13 here, you can have 15 here, and what you're going to have is half that number over here. So you have, if it's 15, it'd be 7 and 7. So in this case, I have 5, and then I have 3, because it's, yeah, so it's 1 more than half. Okay, so 6 would be what you would the number you would die. So you go 1 up. Okay, but anyway, so the point is that this center maxima that is this big, this mathematics fails. So even if you did this, which nobody does, nobody puts the point sources in the middle. Okay, they measure this distance, and then they claim, well, we used infinitesimally small slits, so they don't have to worry about any other distances because you're not going to create the double slit pattern. You see, the logic is so simple, and it's just all lies and bullshit that people don't obey these simple rules. So the fact is that two-wave theory, this is the Young diagram right here. This is true to Young, okay? This is his diagram. Two waves won't create this pattern. It doesn't create this dead spot, it doesn't create this dead spot, it doesn't create the bigger central maxima, it doesn't do any of it. All right, you have to, you're obligated by logic and the facts. All right, I might as well just redraw it down here. To understand that the only way you can make this pattern is that you have to have 4 sources, and they have to be right on the surface. That's the only way it works. So if you do that math, okay, the geometry, you draw your lines, you do your path length differences. See, path length differences from here won't create a double maxima here. Just won't do it. Path length differences to this location, all this, it won't do it. It won't add up. The phase won't work. It won't create the pattern. It won't especially create this. This won't happen. And the only thing that will make that happen, okay, is understanding that these are distances between point sources. And this distance, okay, the longest distance between sources is creating the little bars, the little notches. So all the little ones are being created by that. And the smallest ones are being creating the shortest distance. Now the shortest distance could be this distance and this distance and this distance and this distance, but just for the sake of simplicity, this will be the shortest distance in this example. And so the shortest distance, that is the fewer number of wavelengths, right? There's only like 10, we could say, go in here, 10 wavelengths of light. And this one would obviously be 30, okay, or more, this wider distance, wavelength-wise. So the longer distance has like 30 or 40, this one has 10. And so you can sort of understand that this small distance only has 10 wavelengths. That is, there's only 10 points on this circle. Okay, there's only 10 places where you can have a phase change. That is, where you've made the line a whole wavelength longer. There's only 10 places. And in this distance, there's 30 places. Ergo, the little ones versus the big ones. So that's the 2-slit experiment. And that's why this crap that he's pointing out is in no way a proof of wave theory. Because wave theory fails mathematically, it fails geometrically, it doesn't describe what happens. Okay. Now the fact that he's saying that surfaces are important, but the problem is he can't create the same effect if he pushes them further apart, it breaks down. Because all it does is shoot the ball the wrong way. It shoots it one way. It doesn't shoot them both directions. So it fails. Alright. So that's his first experiment.
People sometimes ask on physics forums, what is the physical cause of
wait for it and go through it.
diffraction of light going through a slit or whatever? And the explanation
Oh.
is always analogous. They start talking about soldiers marching arm in arm and walking through,
They really
on one side
don't.
of them walking through soft
They do
ground
that
while
for
the others
diffraction,
remain.
actually. So to explain the diffraction of light, or why light separates, in terms like of a prison or something, it's usually about angles of the way a light enters a circumstance. So the angle it enters is important and all that kind of crap. Obviously not a factor in describing the slit experiments. So that analysis fail. Like I said, this won't even work for the single slit. There's no evidence that he's basically saying, look, one wave comes out of the single slit. Well, then where do all the bars are coming from? Clearly, there's 2 point sources, the surfaces.
On hard ground and stuff like that.
And obviously, as you can see with this magnetism that's being created, it does have a little bit of an attractive element because that one stuck. I mean, it actually stuck to the copper. So the magnet's turning, okay, as it, into the magnetic field, and the ball, because he didn't paint it, we can't see it. So, but obviously this 1 point source will not create any pattern at all. You have to have 2 point sources. So he's not even accepting what the math says. The math would go from the center of this to the center of this, or the edge here. That's what the math would say the distance is between the 2 point sources. Surface to surface. How can you use, without those 2 point sources, you're doomed. So obviously it's not coming out of one center place and then spreading, because the origin of the spreading is the surfaces. You have 2 point sources that are creating rays of light. So anyway, this is just useless. This is a useless argument in terms of making a decision between wave particle. It provides no insight, and I'd say it's wrong on its face because he's not even showing how it fits the actual experiment. The math doesn't even work.
The same explanation for
laughing in his
refraction.
own video.
But if you apply Lenz's law to
Sorry. I have to go a step further, don't I? Yeah, I have to bring back... what the hell happened to it anyway? I don't remember. Well, I guess I didn't play it. Alright, so you can just see it. This is the same shit
Lenz's
over and
law
over.
100%
Blah, blah, blah.
perfectly explains refraction and diffraction.
So he says it 100%. It doesn't 100%. It doesn't fit the math. It doesn't fit the geometry. It doesn't explain the double maxima in the center. And it certainly won't explain the double slit experiment. So it fails on in every category. No. X. No check mark. Fail, 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 fail. So typical Brozo bullshit.
Was meant to go that way, but it's received.
All right, so this is radar. All right, so well, I guess I better clean the board. All right, back. Yeah, I should point out his video says something like Brit reacting to American or something, some kind of nonsense, and it's just so ironic that he thinks of himself as a Brit, and yet he won't defend Isaac Newton. It's hilarious. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I'm hardly an American. Just the bare minimum of devotion. Okay, it's a shit country full of shitheads. Hail Caesar. I mean, I'm ready to switch to the dictatorship party because people are way too stupid. Anyway, politics aside. So this is about radar. So radar has a large polarization is the simple point to make, okay? So radar is very high frequency radio, all right? So, I don't know even how to make a comparison, but if you were to say, gotta do this part again. Too much. I gotta figure out how to, I just have to get used to doing it, I suppose. So I probably should just move that ahead of that. All right. obviously I don't think light is a wave, right? So I'm saying it's a sequence of particles, all right? And so it has a polarization. So light's polarization very small because its frequency is very small. So it's very little. It has very little shape compared to radar, which has a big shape, 3 centimeters or so. So for 3 centimeters, it's bouncing in space. So you can understand that's rather huge. Even regular visible light has a polarization that's 1,000 atoms. All right, so I mean, if you were to think of it as being some sort of wave, it oscillates over a period of space that's 1,000 atoms. So it's rather gigantic. So, you know, when they tell you a photon goes in and it hits an electron inside of an atom, and the electron moves its energy level and a photon is released, well, you could sort of argue, well, if it's 1,000 times smaller, the place it's being released from is 1,000 times smaller than its polarization. Can that possibly make any sense? I don't think it can possibly make any sense that a single electron could create a photon. I think it's kind of obvious that the event has to take place over numerous atoms, creating an event, and that becomes a photon. But anyway, that's why there's electricity and stuff, and that's why the light has to hit a surface and go across the surface. I mean, it's a little bit too obvious that a single electron, a single atom, cannot move its electron and a little wiggly photon pops out that has a polarization that's 1,000 times bigger than the atom that created it. Too silly. All right. So anyway, just as long as you understand there's a structure. So in this case, he's talking about waveguides, which is just, you know, more baby talk in my opinion, more clearly biased conversation about what the nature of photon is. So I could argue that photon is a bunch of energy flying through space. And if I just sent it like this, you know, this is only two-dimensional, but it's okay. You could see that you could say photon this way, or I 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 could say photon that way, or I could say, if all I had to do was connect 3 dots, okay, with the right distance between them, I could find a photon in a lot of places. Any one of those lines could be a photon. Any one of them. Because it has the right distance between them. Okay, so if they were coming this way, if it was going that way, and obviously it's going in one direction, so there's obviously, it's only going to happen in that one geometry. But just for the sake of argument, that's the point. And so what you're, and I could make that a little bigger, you know, go more dimensions. So anyway, with the radar experiment, a waveguide he's talking about, it's just a piece of metal that has a shape, okay? And it could be in that orientation, or it could be in, you know, this orientation. So it could allow radar that's polarized this way to get through, or it could allow radar to polarize this way to get through. And obviously, if you try to connect those two on top of each other, that would be a little bit retarded, okay? Because neither this, all right, nor this could get through, right? Orientation this way, not going to work because this one, you know, this one's obviously producing like radar this way. It's going to get cut off. These two sides are just going to get cut off. The only thing going through is going to be the crap in the middle. And vice versa, if it was coming out of the blackboard towards you, obviously this can't get through the guide and this can't get through the guide, so the only thing is the stuff in the middle. So obviously that's not going to work. All right, so the idea is that you can turn it, okay, slowly or, you know, in stages, and it will work. And the fact is you don't have to really go too many stages. All you have to do is do this. 22 degrees, I think. Anyway, you put it in that angle, and in theory, all I have to do is make this one a little longer and this one a little wider, and you can see that this will still get through. So it has some chance. Obviously, light going this way can get through, and light maybe going that way can get through. So some of it can still get through. So this gets to, so again, he's doing a parallel, like everything is the same. And clearly everything isn't the same. Okay, I mean, radio requires antenna polarization. You know, it has to be received on an antenna, but it's not receiving, well, I won't even describe, it's antenna polarization. The length of the antenna is telling you a lot about what can happen. but it's also telling you that longer antennas are superfluous. So like with radar, the 3 centimeters is critical, okay, but everything above that isn't very useful. So the longer you make your antenna, it really doesn't help you any. All right, because this is the only part of the antenna that really matters, because it's really just about the speed at which the signal can go up and down the antenna. And once it takes you at the speed of light a certain amount of time to get to the top of the peak. Well, it doesn't do you any good to send a up signal from here when this part of your antenna is sending down signal now. See, you're getting there too late. The up signal, there's no point in having the peak going up, all right, when, coming out of the antenna, when your signal is now going down, right? So your signal is going down now, and this part of your antenna is still doing up. Well, that's just going to be noise. That's not going to help you any. It's not going to help broadcast your signal. All right, anyway. So the real point here is that, okay, with light, it's little thin pieces of film that are doing the changing. And you could sort of understand that all they really have to do, all you have to do is you can just take things and put them out of phase. If I put those 4 out of phase, then I take a lot of lines out of the game. Right? I take this line out, this line out, this line out, and that line out. And now all I have is this one, and this one. So you can just sort of understand, just by putting things out of phase, I can break photons. And then I can just put them back in phase, and then I can restore that angle. I can restore that direction by putting them back in phase. And all I'm saying, the process for light anyway, is just a shifting of the polarization. So you're just shifting the alignment, so they're not in alignment anymore. Okay, so there's no photon because you need these elements you need this to happen. And if I put them out of phase, that is, I take this one and I put it here, they're not in alignment. But if I restore it and move it back to here, then they are in alignment. So you're just really just breaking the alignment of the quantum, and that is indicated by the fact that none of this gets hot. Okay, so nothing gets hot. None of the photons are absorbed by the filters. That's why you can restore, say, 90% with a really good polarizing filter. You can put one this way, you can put one this way, and then you can put one that way. Right? You have these 3 choices. You can do that, and you can get 90% of your light back. Yeah. But you have to have 10 of these incrementally turning, and then you can get most of your light back. If they're really good filters to start with. So obviously the light wasn't destroyed. It wasn't getting knocked off. Like, these weren't killed elements. They were just elements taken out of phase. And then you put them back in phase. And the same thing's happening in the radar. The high elements, right? So if we understand that the photon is shaped something like this, you can understand that when it's changing direction, when you're turning the metal, the higher elements are the ones getting knocked out of phase, and the lower elements getting knocked out of phase. And so you're just twisting it. You're moving them essentially to this direction, right? So you move this to here, and you move that to there, and now this lines up. So yeah, the stuff going through the center, no problem. So the core stays the way it is. If this was the core, this pattern, that stays exactly the way it is, because it doesn't care whether you're going this way or whether you're going this way. The core gets through. And all you're doing is taking the ones that was here and here, and you're moving them here, and you're moving this one here. That's all. You're just twisting the outside ones. So that's the particle explanation. See, Stephen keeps thinking he's proving something. Like somehow it can't be explained with any other theory than his wave theory. And that's really what this is all about, this dispute. He's an advocate for a position. He's pretending he's a neutral observer when he's clearly bent. Okay, he's clearly, the bend of the Stephen Bro is quite obvious. It's not a little bend, it's a complete bend. All right, he's an advocate for the wave theory. He hates Newton's physics. He hates Descartes and he hates Galileo. And he likes little Madame Chartelet. And he came to running to her defense, even though she did shit experiments proving a theory that we already know wasn't right. Just like Brozo here, she proved mv squared, which got wrong answers. Completely wrong answers. She proved it, but it was wrong. And he can't even understand, that you don't defend people who prove something that wasn't right. That's stupid. All right. So we'll get through this.
Leaving that polarization, but when we put the equivalent of the triple polarizer power,
whatever this, helping to twist some horizontal to vertical. So again, twist what? And you can just see by looking at it, right? It's not turning the center. It doesn't change whatever stuff is going through the center, still going right through the center. It's only changing the stuff on the outside. And it's just twisting stuff that's in these positions and just turning them into these positions.
paradox device in the middle. It corrects.
The sound you hear means microwaves, a kind of light, can pass through the tubes. If you have to tell somebody that microwaves are a kind of photon, I think they're a little bit beneath analyzing your video or even coming close to being able to appreciate how big an asshole you are. So yes, I guess that's important.
The polarization, same as if I put this at a 45-degree angle.
Oh, sorry. Gotta keep remembering this shit. Alright, so I'll play that little bit again with the twisted piece because, gotta see the twisted piece. Whoops.
Was meant to go that way, but it's receiving that polarization. But when we put the equivalent of the triple polarizer paradox device in.
So obviously when you take two rectangles, a rectangle going this way and a rectangle going that way, there's going to be an overt incompatibility. All you have that's common is the little square between them. The little square in between is all there is in common.
In the middle. It corrects the polarization, same as if I put this at a 45-degree angle between the two.
So yes, you can do it without twisting it. You can. It's close enough. It's such a marginal little difference. It accepts things that are a little bit off.
Nothing gets through like that, and nothing gets through like that. But halfway between the two, it does. So that was just a crude version of that.
Yeah, and all you're really saying is I'm taking the two, I have two rectangles. And all you're saying is well, I can sneak a third rectangle in there and it'll get stuff going this way. Well, it'll match enough. And then it also matches enough, going this way. So if I put something in between the two, I can sneak pieces that are a little bit off here and I can sneak pieces a little bit off here.
If you had several of these waveguides, gradually turning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 until you turn the 90 degrees, you would get almost the same effect as that. Triple polarizer paradox is nothing more than.
So triple polarizer paradox, he's saying it's nothing more than. So again, he won't concede that as you change the frequency of light, you change the polarization, and these numbers get monstrous. Again, the difference, between visible light's polarization, happening over a 500 or 1,000 atoms, just a very tiny, versus 3 centimeters for microwaves versus a mile, theoretically. Obviously, the polarization isn't working the same way, or you couldn't receive radio. Okay, because the antenna wouldn't be long enough. Put simply, you wouldn't be able to create any waves because the waves are so gigantic. Obviously, the way the polarization is affecting the atoms is different in these different cases. You're directly creating electricity, okay, on the surface of metals by hitting them with the photons in radio. That's how you're creating electricity. You're also doing that with light, because that's the photo electric effect. So it doesn't have to be necessarily a metal. It's more likely to be, though. But clearly the way the frequency is creating that pattern is different. So to say they all work the same way would be, it's as you know, like noob mistake, noob scientist mistake. You know, water waves are just like light. Why would you think so? I mean, it's pretty stupid. They're really not the same thing. And it's just another science noob mistake to say, well, all photons, because all photons are called photons, because they're all the same kind of energy, they have the same exact effect. And you can manipulate them, the same mechanism manipulates them. It's just stupid.
A twisted waveguide in very simplistic form. Oh, we can demonstrate total internal reflection, the same, zigzagging through a slit. But what's happening here? It's all
okay. So this is it's just kind of stupid. The reason why it's zigzagging is likely because he doesn't have a line on here or any indication of the poles of the magnet. So I mean, I don't want to get into a whole bunch of stuff about this, but you can sort of understand that if you don't do that, theoretically the magnet's going to rotate, and it'll be rotating in one direction. The magnetic flip will be this big cone, and the other direction will be a small cone. So the red, what you see, how much of the red and how much of the blue you're seeing as it spins will be different. And all that's really happening is when one side pushes on the ball, okay, on the magnet, it's turning it and spinning it, and so now it's rotating differently. So now it swings to the other side, and then it swings back, and it swings back because it's wobbling as it's going. So if you had the magnet painted, you would see that it's turning as it's rolling.
caused by Lenz's law.
It's constantly reorienting itself to the magnetic fields being created. It's not like bouncing back and forth like light inside of a fiber optic.
The ball's being pushed and pulled
not
left
even
and right.
Close.
It's zigzagging through. It's zigzagging between the aluminium foil rolls. Because
I mean, theoretically, if he rolled it, if he knew which way, red side, blue side, and he threw the magnet through, it might just go straight through, because he wouldn't be changing the magnetic field any.
the current it's inducing in the aluminium foil rolls.
But because it's rotating, on some other axis, it's rotating this way or this way. Because
And for those of you who
rotating
don't know, this
the
is actually
magnet,
how
it's
the waveguide
making all
works.
kinds of changes in
The
the
photons
magnetic
are
fields.
effectively reflected back and forth. They zigzag through a waveguide, which
So
is
he's
what
saying this has
governs
something to do with a photon, which
dimensions
is
of
just ridiculous, frankly, in my opinion. It's a ridiculous comparison. We know photons are inert to magnetic fields. There's no such thing as a magnetic field affecting anything called a photon. It just doesn't happen, Steve.
a waveguide. I'm not entirely sure how this might play out in a dielectric, but we certainly do have dielectric waveguides.
Or whatever. Ken Wheeler nonsense. The dielectric. Sorry, no sale. You have two really simple experiments. Alright, so he plays me playing the video.
push
Sorry,
them all
I
off the side.
shouldn't have cut that off, because what I actually draw on the board are round things. Yes, like they were spheres. I didn't imagine he would shoot discs. So everything I said in that video is, really doesn't apply, because I didn't think he'd be using a Bic pen as a launcher. Well, it's probably not Bic, but whatever. Oh, he says Bic. Shot off of a Lego. Okay, at least I can see the Lego now. So, I don't know if that's the best surface. On an even surface, I mean, it should have been a surface that's always consistent. I don't know if that was a great choice. And so he has taped coins. He took like pennies and taped them together to make a twice as mass object, and then pennies not taped together as the one mass object. and he's pushing them apparently from, he doesn't change the height of the pen, so he's pushing the 2-penny object obviously from a different center than the single penny. So right there is a problem. And clearly when you push something that's, you know, got mass vertical, right, you can sort of understand, like a domino, you can hit it in the bottom and make it turn this way, and then you can hit it from the top and make it spin that way. So you're going to create some sort of differences just because of the fact that you're not hitting through their center of mass. Okay, so he has nothing to guarantee he's hitting them through the center of mass. And they're fucking discs. They're fucking flying saucers. Okay, I didn't anticipate he was going to shoot flying saucers. I mean, I could do the experiment by crumpling up a piece of paper on one side and then putting a folded airplane on the other side and say, look, there's a difference. Of course there's going to be a difference. And, you know, with frisbees, actually, I think, you know, people who do this frisbee golf thing, you know, to shoot your frisbee the furthest, I think they actually use heavier frisbees because they can put more energy into the heavier frisbee. But whatever. It's just not a very good experiment. And as I pointed out, it's all moot anyway because the air track makes it moot. Put your Bic pen, okay, you know, on the air track and shoot the 1 mass cart and then shoot the 2 mass cart and show me it's 1.4. But he's not gonna, he doesn't do that. He doesn't show us that video. Instead shows us this crap.
Every time, okay. I'm going to use silver foil as a way of marking where they land. So, blue ones.
So again, filmed in shit vision. I mean, he can't even, you know, get a tripod. So he has all this stuff. He can't get a tripod, have a nice still image of anything. Everything's moving all over the place. So you have, this is obviously, I guess the blue ones are 2 coins taped together. Obviously, like I said, he's not going to change the position of this pen when he's shooting red ones, I don't think.
First go, I'll release. You can see very clearly where it landed, can't you? I thought that worked out quite well. So it's on the 5 mark, isn't it, really? So
yeah, it's very round,
okay,
too,
you
have to say. So it fell nice and flat.
Ooh, how did that do? Exactly the same place, isn't it, Luke?
Yeah, it looks
You get the
flat
idea.
also.
I do that 10 or 20 times, then do the same with the red ones 10 or 20 times. Mark off either the averages or mark off
blah,
the
blah,
fastest
blah,
ones.
blah, blah. Yeah, you didn't do any of that marking up stuff. So that's another blue
just
one.
a little bit short of the other one, can you see?
So round again. So it's very round. So it you know, it appears that the blue ones anyway are just flying and landing. So they're sailing and then hitting. So they're doing what a frisbee does in a sense. Now maybe they're not rotating, so they don't have that kind of capacity to stay aloft. But they're clearly sailing. Clearly that would be they're clearly not tumbling.
It's the red ones, isn't it? The 1 mass. Crikey,
Right. What do we get?
There, it's hit edge on there,
yeah,
isn't
a
it?
dent.
A little bit shorter. But
Clear evidence that the red ones fall with their edge hitting. Oh, that looks different to me. I'm just noticing that looks different. Do you think that the fact that it landed looking different, that it might be a meaningful difference? Yeah, it might be. Might be that the red ones are tumbling. So the blue ones went further than you would think they should because they sailed and landed. And the red ones tumbled, causing a lot of drag, and therefore clumped down sooner. It's a reasonable argument in my opinion. Alright, so again, this is just Madame Chartelet shenanigans. Alright, I'll do the experiment my way because it works this way. I can make it look like. And that's all this asshole is doing. And that's why we're not going to see the air track experiments. And if we ever see them, they're going to be like this. They're going to be crap. Okay, because he has no intention of, like I said, in one day you could do maybe 100 different spring, you could use rubber bouncers, you could use all kinds of different things and just document simple facts about what happens. But he won't do any of that.
science predicts, a lot short of what Gary predicts.
So again, he just keeps, the whole video is just this, short of what Gary said, short of what Gary said. Well, Gary didn't say shoot fucking frisbees. That's not what Gary said. With a big pen.
Next one. So let's look at the table this time. This is a
another
record
pretty
of the
clumpy
92
hard
centimeter
hit.
drop. You can see that the 2 mass object went 19 inches. The 1 mass object went 24 inches.
Okay, so yeah, you got at least a 20% error rate. So you didn't really prove 1.4 either, did you? No. So maybe a rational person would say, well, maybe there's some reason this is so fucked up. But no, not Steve.
That's 1.26 times that. And science predicted 26.9 inches, 1.4.
So again, I didn't predict any of what this says, in the sense that I never imagined he would use frisbees.
Times that. Gary is all the way over here. He predicted it would go 30.
Yeah, obviously this 38 number he's just making up based on how far the blue ones went. So he's just taking the blue one number and saying twice as much. When obviously, yeah, that would work if they weren't objects that, you know, the blue ones are gliding and the red ones are tumbling. Which seems obvious, frankly. I mean, seems pretty obvious.
8 inches, double that. Actual, science, Gary's.
Fail, fail, fail. They're both failures, that's clear. Okay, yours failed less than my prediction. But again, that's all based on this initial landing of your 2 mass pennies.
Whose looks most right to you?
So now he's changing the drop height, which in theory shouldn't make any difference. So if changing the drop height is making a difference, it's clear that air is causing the problem. See, in theory, in a vacuum, it wouldn't make any difference how high you go, because all that's going to happen is the object, you know, you're shooting it out this way with a certain amount of energy, and gravity's always doing the same thing. So if you get different answers at different heights, the only thing that can account for that is air. That's it. Because this distance can't change, and this distance can't change. The energy going this way, the velocity this way, can't possibly be affected in a vacuum, so it'll always go the same distance this way. You know, it runs out and it just falls straight down. I mean, that's the curve. So everything has to be on that curve. I mean, you can shorten the curve, you know, by shortening, you know, creating almost no distance, then yes, it'll be the top of that curve. But everything has to be on that curve in a vacuum. And it's off that curve, then, you know, yeah, you're doing something wrong. I did hit the play button. So some of these graphics he puts up for 4 seconds, and some of them are a half hour apparently. Yeah, it's just it's playing. It's just
0.3 inches, double that. Okay. Can't quite see where that went. Oh yeah, there's a round mark there, isn't there?
So there's a pretty big spread in these. We can also notice that, so that's not too good either. So he's going to say, well, I'll just average my spread and say that's the distance they went. Yeah, I don't know. You really should account for the fact that you have pretty inconsistent results. I mean, it's a pretty huge spread, frankly.
High-speed camera would be handy.
Yeah, no, round objects would be handy.
Can't see where
I
that
mean,
went really.
spherical.
Can't see where that went either.
Not wings. Not shooting, you know, discs. Frisbees. Yeah. Don't shoot frisbees.
Summary of the result. It was a bit better last time, but we've concluded this time it's 1.28. So 2 mass went 14.7, 1 mass went 18.8 actual. Science predicted 20.8. Gary predicted 29.
So again, let's just understand, I didn't do any of this predicting. I didn't say, yes, use little flying discs to do the experiment. So again, this initial result here is the one you have to question.
0.4, so at least science is in the ballpark. And quite obviously it's air resistance causing this difference.
Oh,
the result
okay.
was a bit
So
better.
now he says it's air resistance that just slowed down the fast ones. Okay. Yeah, I'd say it's floating distance that's the problem, but whatever. Now these did create dents here, so we do see these are dents. So from the higher height, and logically you could sort of understand that it's flying, it's gliding, and then it's going to tilt and land at its point. So the higher you go, the more likely it is going to be traveling. Like if you throw a penny off the Empire State Building, pretty quickly it's going to turn to be aerodynamic and fall in that aerodynamic configuration. So now we know that at this height, so at the other height it was still gliding. At this height it's stopped gliding and is now tilted and is going straight down.
The last time when I did this came out at 1.3 instead of 1.28, and then the next one came out at 1.36 when I did it from a much lower height, 32 centimeters.
So this is a shorter drop.
For the record, this is what happened when I did it with the drop 32 centimeters.
So that's when we got the
2 mass
round
object, 6.6
impressions on the
grams, went to
foil.
exactly 10
Round
inches,
impressions
and
on the foil.
1 mass object actually landed at 13.65 inches, and that was just short of what science predicted. Science predicted it would land at 14.14 inches. If I
All right,
could
let's
measure that
understand,
accurately.
science
Gary
doesn't predict
predicted
any of this. So when he says science predicted, that's a lie. All right, he'll play no video explaining the origins of this 1.4 thing except Piro. So until Stephen Brozo shows us Professor Lewin saying it, or any college professor saying it, that springs, number one, okay, saying springs don't conserve momentum. He's saying it overtly. So whatever energy you push a spring in with, it doesn't conserve that energy. Momentum. So whatever object has a certain momentum goes into a spring, the spring hasn't collected that momentum because it can't deliver it. And he says he doesn't have any theory where the momentum went. Where did the momentum energy go? Why didn't it produce the, unlike the lever? So if he shot these things with levers, maybe that's what he should do, is take his little Skittles and shoot them with a lever and see if he ends up with the same results, which would demonstrate that, oh yeah, your experiment's completely flawed, because they're obvious. It would be obvious then that you can't defeat the 2x thing. You can't stop the other one from going twice as fast then. But he didn't do that. So it's not science says. Science doesn't predict this. It's exactly against what every scientist who says conservation of momentum is important, like Feynman and like Lewin at least, he's disagreeing with them. He's proving them wrong. So he's not just proving me wrong, he's proving conventional physics wrong, because they would argue that the momentum has to be conserved, that's what a spring does. It wouldn't be of any value if it couldn't conserve the momentum. That means the spring would, like if I took a 10-pound weight and I pushed the spring in, with gravity or any mechanism, that it wouldn't deliver the energy back again. It wouldn't conserve the momentum.
Measure all the way over here at twice the distance, 20 inches, double that of the 2 mass object. So Gary's prediction was way off.
So again, not my prediction, not my experiment, not anything to do with me really. And he's got the air track experiments. Why don't you show them, Steve? You've had them for weeks or months. Why don't you show us further verification of this brilliant proof? You're saying you've proved me wrong. You're saying you've proved something to be true. Well, why don't you show us the real evidence? The good experiment instead of the shitty experiment. Alright, so he says, proving spring is strong, stiff enough to push lighter objects. Okay, so I guess now he's going to put a aspirin on and shoot it across the room. So why didn't you do that with the initial experiment? Why don't you do the experiment with a little broken piece of aspirin? Because, yeah, the aerodynamics will be very similar for, twice as much, a twice as big clump of aspirin would probably be the same aerodynamics as the smaller aspirin.
returning to the 92 centimetre drop one, just for a moment.
Now, Gary's common excuse, Gary likes to blame the spring that you use to propel the object, saying that it's not strong enough. He likes to tell us all that it's not strong enough to respond quickly enough to send anything at that speed that far. So let's test that out at 92 centimeters.
So he's testing it out at the highest height. So let's just understand. So he's went to the highest height to test it out. Why didn't he show us the test at 32 inches? Why are you showing the test at the highest height? Obviously, it's going to go further than the highest height. Obviously.
Then test it out again at 61 centimeters high, and test it out again at 32 centimeters high. And every time you'll see that the spring is quite capable of projecting objects much further than Gary claims.
Yeah, that's not the argument with springs. So again, you just really don't understand the whole concept of stiffness. So, you know, there's no point in me, I'm not a spring expert in the first place, but I mean, there's no point in me having to explain to you that, yes, you know, like let's say I had a balloon and I deflated the balloon. So it's still a balloon shape, but it's got very low air pressure in it. And then I throw something at the balloon. You can understand it doesn't bounce back very well. You know, it's pretty shitty. I pump up the balloon and then I throw the same object at it and it bounces all the way back. And it bounces right back into my hand again. You know, it's because it's nice and stiff. Now you don't understand that that's a concept. That's some kind of a real concept in the real world. That, you know, if you take the air pressure out of a tennis ball, it doesn't work so good. The tennis would be an entirely different game if the tennis balls didn't have compressed air in them. If they were deflated tennis balls. There's a big controversy here in this country with American football, you know, because they deflated the balls a little bit. So it's a real thing, Steve. I'm sorry you can't understand the concept, but it's a real concept that the spring has to be matched to the weights you're pushing. You don't get it? I'm sorry. I can't make you get it. Okay, so anyway.
Is the limit. It's a desperate excuse on Gary's part, I'm afraid. I don't really want to hammer it home to him, but I just want...
So, frankly, in this video, I haven't made that excuse, okay? In his 2 kilo cart, that is his 4 pound or 5 pound cart he was pushing with a spring, I made the argument that, yeah, your spring just wasn't up to it.
Him to accept the reality, the honest truth, that this is what's happening. He's fighting Mother Nature.
Now, I say again, he says it's Mother Nature. It says all balloons bounce the same. Tennis balls with air in them bounce the same as tennis balls without air in them.
The spring is quite capable of projecting objects much further.
It doesn't matter how much air is in the tennis ball.
It's a desperate excuse.
It doesn't matter how much air is in the tennis ball.
I don't really want to hammer it home to him, but I just want him to accept the reality, the honest truth, that this is what's happening. He's fighting Mother Nature, so to speak.
No, I'm fighting a
propagandist. He's fighting reality.
A lousy, weaselly, conniving, scheming propagandist. Where's the air track experiments, fuckhead? You've had it for months. It takes 10 minutes to do an experiment. 10 fucking minutes of preparation and you're ready to do an experiment. You put a spring on it, you push it with a spring, you bang the carts into each other, the whole thing. You can do fucking 400 experiments and it wouldn't even take you more than a few hours. Where are the fucking experiments, fuckhead? You fucking liar. You fucking goddamn deceiving, propagandizing jackass. Where are the fucking experiments, Steve?
Sorry, that's the way it is. Anyway, it's very difficult to film this, so I've put the camera dead high up and it's a bit dodgy. I'm hoping so you can see that I'm launching it from the same place and it's travelling more than this 1 metre over a yard past Gary's projection, which is here. Well,
so he did the highest distance
so the one mass
shooting an
object is not
aspen or
limited
something
by
probably
spring's
weighs
thickness, as Gary claims.
7 or 10 times less than the penny, the metal disc. So he's shooting something 10 times less massive. And there's a big surprise that it's going 10 times further. No, there really isn't, Steve. So why don't you do the experiment with really light objects? Why'd you do it with heavy metal objects? It's a big pen, for fuck's sake. You know, why are you shooting pennies with a big pen?
Where the fucking hell did that go? Well,
or quarters or dollars or whatever your British coinage is.
I'm afraid that went off the table. It went too far. I'm going to have to change the angle a bit. There's a catchment area here I'm hoping to catch the object in. These are not pointing the right way at all.
Yeah, it's not pointing the right way, and you're shooting off a Lego.
That. I don't know the best way to do it.
I mean, a flat surface would, to me, make a lot more sense, frankly. What advantage is there to shooting off a Lego? I just don't get it. It doesn't minimize the friction. You can't really do it that way.
Really? Right. Well, did you see that? That hit the backboard and bounced there. I'll do it again.
Yeah, I'm right, and it weighs 10 times less. More, probably 20 times less. I don't believe he even told us what it is he's flinging. I'm just guessing it's a piece of an aspirin or something.
Again, you can hear it hit the backboard and bounce all the way back there. So they're all going as far as this channel will let them.
Stupid objections are his only defence. He's not arguing with me, he's arguing
No, I'm arguing with
a
you.
quarter. So then you have to use the square root of 4, which is 2. 2 2s are 4. Yeah, so if you wanted to achieve the twice distance, the twice velocity that Gary says we should get, you have to use a quarter of the...
Well, why didn't you do that one then, too? Why don't you do that? Why don't you take 4 of those metal coins and then 1 of the metal coins and show us that, oh yeah, the 1 coin goes twice as far then? Why didn't you do that experiment, Steve? Oh, that's right, because your results will not come out the way you predict either. Okay, because you're an idiot.
mass, not half the mass. And that, to the best of my knowledge,
No, you don't have any knowledge. You're a fucking idiot.
which isn't much, is the
Exactly.
kinetic energy formula.
So that's to the best of his knowledge, he says. Why don't you post me to the video, okay? Steve, you're saying this is conventional physics' idea, 1.4. Show me the video where the professors are saying that. All right? Show me Professor Lewin talking about how springs only produce 1.4. And the key number there is the 0.4. Just understand, he's saying that I can take a baseball and cut it in half. All right, so it's half the mass. And he's saying I can only throw it 0.4 faster. 0.4. I lost 0.6. I can only go 0.4 faster. So, you know, if I'm pushing a kid that's 100 pounds in a little cart, and I put a 50-pound kid in, I can only push him 0.4 faster. That's it, with the same energy. That's his theory. Well, who says this except Piro? Where did you get this idea from except from Piro? Where is it a thing, Steve? Where did Newton say it? Where did somebody say it besides you and Piro? Fuck.
We can safely guess it would have ended up about here, short of what it should have been, because there's a trend, isn't there? They're all a bit short of what they should have been. And I've run out of camera time again, folks.
All a bit short of what they should have been. I don't even know what that means. I mean, the should have been line changes for each one, but whatever. So let's just play the air track again.
You didn't get much chance to see my pretty face, did you? Lucky you. Didn't even get a chance to show you the air track working.
So obviously the air track with his little Bic pen would be so much better of an experiment, right? I mean, we don't have to worry about, you know, tumbling Skittles and all that kind of crap. So did he do that experiment? What experiments did he do, right? So he's had the thing for weeks. He's clearly capable of videotaping. I mean, yes, it sucks, but, you know, he's clearly capable of doing something that you can almost view. So where are they? Oh, he doesn't want to show them because they proved me right. That's it. That's the only answer. There's no other answer. He's not showing it because, no, the results didn't come out the way he wanted them to. Period. There's no other reason he hasn't shown it. You don't think Stephen would have been putting the videos right up here if they proved Professor Lewin right and proved my objection wrong? You don't think the video would already be up? Come on. Too silly. Yeah, whatever. He probably fucked that up. I mean, he he says it in his comments section. Well, maybe I did it wrong somehow. Yeah, maybe it is true. Maybe you did. So maybe it won't have any credibility, in terms of defending my theory that Professor Lewin's experiment is horseshit. Because you'll do the experiment, you'll even fuck up an air track. So we can't even trust you doing that one with any kind of, precision. Even though he's got this whole, look at this piece of hardware he's got, all these dials and blippity blips. I mean, Star Wars, he's got all this technology. Nothing to say. Too silly. So we'll go to some of the comments. Alright, so I guess we'll read this here first, right? So he says in the title, Brit reacting to American free energy nut. So obviously I'm arguing against free energy. And it's Professor Lewin's experiment that demonstrates free energy. So he can't even get that even close to accurate. I mean, this is just how many, he's a compulsive liar and distorter. I mean, there's no way to describe me as an American free energy nut because I'm opposing any notion of free energy in defense of Galileo, Descartes, and Newton, who all opposed any such notion. So he's a Brit, lying about an American who is actually defending Newton against the German Leibniz. Von Leibniz. Okay, I'm the one defending Newton against being slandered with von Leibniz German physics. So the British apparently lost the war. Okay, the British apparently aren't British anymore and don't revere their greatest scientist. Okay, pseudoscientist, he calls me, and look at the science he's doing. Look at the quality of the science he's doing, and he has the arrogance to call somebody else a pseudoscientist when he can't figure out shooting discs into the air isn't a great idea if you want to evade error affecting the experiment. All right, debunking draft science. So again, he says, he obviously a very, very poor debunk. He's learned absolutely nothing. He pays attention to absolutely no details. He doesn't care about the actual science, and he calls something conventional science when no conventional scientist believes it. All right. So Brit reacting to an American free energy nut, pseudoscientist. So he just rewrites the same shit. Features various experiments, kinetic energy formula evidence. So he says that somewhere in here is evidence of kinetic energy formula. When the evidence is he's saying momentum isn't conserved. So he's saying there is no conservation of momentum. So he is proving Newton wrong in believing that momentum is conserved. Okay, alternative diffraction and refraction theory hypothesis experiment. Okay, that doesn't do anything. Okay, demonstration using lenses law breaking effect. So he just uses their rhetoric as if lenses law was a law and it wasn't a phenomenon. It's it's kind of stupid not to recognize that there actually is physics involved in the physics. A physical thing is happening, and they're pretending it's a law thing when it's a physical thing. It's just too stupid. All right, magnetic braking. So he keeps saying the same thing. Total internal reflection waveguides. So it's clearly not total internal reflection. Obviously the energy that's going through the center, as I pointed out, of the cross, so to speak, that's not internal reflections. So he's even abusing the concept of what internal reflections mean in terms of creating an interference pattern. He's not even getting that that's a different kind of phenomenon. It's not the same phenomenon. You can't make any distinctions. Everything's the same for him. Anyway, doing the experiments Gary refuses to do, so just more horse shit. Again, first off, it's not my job. And second, as I've pointed out, why should they be done badly when they can be done well? There's thousands, literally thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people with better equipment and better facilities to conduct the experiments. Why should I do them? Why is Gary doing the experiments important to you? Should I have said Einstein's completely invalidated because he didn't physically do any experiments? Feynman is completely invalidated because he never did any physical experiments? I mean, it's just silly. My only obligation is to interpret the evidence that exists. I don't have some obligation to make the evidence. Amazing. You've interpreted absolutely zero evidence in support of kinetic energy and stated you know it to be a fact. And you can't point me to any evidence demonstrating it to be a fact. And just like Madame Chartelet, you're a charlatan. Okay. Even when they are his idea. So again, it wasn't my idea to shoot Skittles across the fucking room. Gary is in denial of reality. So again, just more bullshit. Where are the fucking goddamn air track experiments, Stephen? He lives in a make-believe world where he is Sir Isaac Newton reincarnated. Well, I certainly have a lot more respect for Newton's accomplishments than ass fucking wipes like you. Why the fuck, you're too stupid to realize nobody ever proved Newton wrong? You just think he's wrong because an American told you so? I mean, a bunch of American physicists in the 1800s basically told you that Newton said when Newton didn't say it. You think that's fair copying, you stupid fuck? God, you're such a dumbass. Alright, whatever. Minus the intelligence, yeah. Well, I'm not minus the integrity, and you are. Alright, so sort by. Let's just see what the newest shit is first, I suppose. Oh, it's pinned by Stephen Bro, so it must be just totally cool. Great comment. Okay, someone should do this experiment. It's just so simple. I don't want to do the experiment. It's too inconvenient. So again, anybody who's watched any of my videos knows I've stated the reasoning why I'm not the best candidate to do the experiments. First off, I have a ton of things to do. You know, working on the sim. Okay, I got a whole other YouTube channel to work on. I got lots of things, websites. You know, just to protest YouTube, I do have to go through a lot of inconvenient crap to post the videos on the website. So, you know, and this is all they got. Quote mine, quote mine, quote mine, quote mine. That's all they got. And Stephen pinned this as if this comment means something. He wants me to take a Bic pen, and I'll shoot round objects, of course, instead of being a stupid fuck. You know, I'll do the experiment with some hope of getting rational results. But somehow that would prove it. Our little competing Bic pens will prove the case. I mean, it's fucking so fucking stupid. God. Let's see. But what is this? Thus bestrides the narrow world this colossus of science. So, gee, that's, you know, you've just totally proven me wrong with that, huh? So he pinned that comment, that pile of nothing he thinks is the best out of this bunch of shit in the comments section. I'm sure it's a bunch of shit. Like I said, I haven't read it yet, but I'm sure it's a bunch of shit. Why the fuck would he pin this piece of shit? I mean, just what the fuck? You think you're going to persuade me that I'm wrong with that? Completely mischaracterize what I've said and you'll convince me I'm wrong. Oh, I don't think that'll work. So they can't even do that, honestly. Oh, this is it. This is what he pinned on his channel. If brains were dynamite, so this is like what? The oldest joke? You know, what? He's going all the way back. Newton probably knew this joke. He would have enough to blow his wig off. Yes, it even sounds like a Newton joke, right? With the wigs. Yeah, that's a zinger. You really zinged me with that one, Steve. I don't know. I mean, this is such an insane fucking madhouse, to quote a better movie. It's a madhouse. You people are all fucking on crack. You know, to use another 1942 joke. Oh, amazing. All right, you don't use merchant coins. You devil-spawned foreign coins cannot be trusted. I don't know. Okay, that's just too cool. Would actually be cool to do it with whatever this is, merchant coins, and with some Merchian, what is this? Gravity? I don't know, which appears to work differently according to Gary. I shouldn't have read the comments, right? This is all quite insane. All right, Robert Price. I don't remember that name. I just watched his video where he rants for hours and hours. Okay. But it's good to see you do experiments unlike him. So why don't you ask him to show you the air track ones? Those are the ones that are really important. I could watch you demolish that idiot for hours. Well, apparently you can watch a lot of stuff for hours. So I guess when we get to the air track experiments, I hope you'll watch those. You know, where he proves Professor Lewin right. You know, we've been talking about it for months. So, I mean, he must have the Big Bang is coming, right? I guess maybe this is all for show or something. I mean, this is all Steve's way of, you know, creating drama and a big presentation. So the curtain's going to open and Steve is going to play his video. Professor Lewin is right. And Arbor Scientific, even though they make air tracks, don't know fuck about air tracks. Yeah, okay, so he's going to prove it for us. Oh, shit. Thank you, Robert. There's more to come. I'm so spoiled for choice. He makes things worse for himself every time he opens his mouth. If only he would just admit he made a mistake. Well, why don't you play the air track experiment, Steve? I mean, you know, the two carts with the spring in between them, and you break the spring and they fly apart. Well, why don't you do those, Steve, and show us how momentum isn't conserved? Come on, Steve. Oh, Jesus. Face the results like a man. There's no results here. I honestly would not want to rub salt in the wound, as it were. So again, I can't even imagine how this fucktard can type this shit when he's sitting there. He shows the fucking air track in the fucking video. So why don't you tell us, Steve, how long have you had it? And why didn't you just do the Professor Lewin experiment? Just that one experiment. If nothing else, just do that one fucking experiment, please. Why can't you satisfy that simple request? That's not being made just by me, and you know it. I mean, you know there's more than me that's curious. What the fuck's the hang-up, Steve? Oh, that's right, your comment where you said, oh, it didn't turn out the way I thought it would. I guess that's the reason why you're not showing it to us, is right? Because it didn't turn out the way you wanted it to. Oh, and look at the way he's talking. Just amazing. If he had the slightest humility. Yeah, no, I don't have any of that, because you people aren't going to cause me to be humble. Why? You're not doing anything reasonable. You're a charlatan. Okay? What humility does that provoke in people? Watching pickpockets. You're a creep. All right. Our honesty. So where's the honesty in what you're doing? Where's your honesty? How long ago did you make this video, Steve? How long have you had the air track, Steve? Can you answer the simple fucking questions, Mr. Honesty? Right? Oh. His last 6 videos done in about 2 days. No, well, obviously 4 in one day, 2 in the other day, are just littered with fundamentally, deliberately dishonest nonsense. So prove it, fuckface. And yes, your face does look fucked. Designed to distract people away from videos like this. Yeah, no, it's designed to point people to the video where you have an air track and you show us what the air track says. Showing quite clearly. So again, he says it's quite clear to shoot frisbees. That's how you do the experiment the right way, is you shoot frisbees. Okay. That Gary is simply wrong, because you shot frisbees. Oh, okay. He shouldn't be that big a deal. Yeah, it should be. It's the fact that you people were such dupes back in the Châtelet days, where she had the fake little clay experiments proving mv squared, not 1/2 mv squared, and you still talk as if her proof was valid. Well, wasn't it invalid because she was proving the wrong theory? And you still can't even fess up to that, you fucking piece of lying shit. Right? You said it's good science when clearly it was bad science. It's the wrong answer, she proved. And you're doing the same shit. The same shenanigans. Ugh, but he's the ultimate coward. No, you're the ultimate coward. You're obviously an ultimate manipulator. Again, how long ago did you make this video, Steve? How long have you had the air track, Steve? Can you answer the fucking question, Steve? He would throw anyone under the bus to save face. No, I'll throw assholes under a bus any day. So give me a permit to, give me a cop badge. Yeah, and some justice might get done. Ugh, because you people are assholes. All right, did you hear the parts where he is threatening me and Lance Bradshaw? So there we go. With extreme violence. No, I'm saying if you step on my property, I'm going to see it as a terrorist attack. Okay? I don't consider you friends. I don't consider you decent people. You're a lying sack of manipulating shit. And I have no interest in encounters with you. So if you force the encounter, I have every right to defend myself against you, you terrorist. You're the one who's just doxed a guy for no good reason. You fucking asshole. Yeah. Fuck you. Alright, so don't terrorize me with threatening to come to my house. Who the fuck are you to threaten me that way? You have no right to come anywhere near me, you fuck. Alright, saying we will meet with an accident near stairs or something about that. Yes, that's right. I won't get into it in this video, so fuck that. But clearly, this asshole thinks this is all friendly. There's nothing friendly about your lies, you fucking scumbag. Nothing. I have no obligation to give a motherfucking shit about your welfare, fucker. You are an enemy of the state. You're an enemy of the human race. And certainly my enemy. You hate the fucking goddamn truth. You rape it every day. You scum. Alright, well, anyway, I'm not even going to talk about what he thinks. So he's got to bring up my father. Well, I think your father obviously had no integrity and was one of the scummiest human beings on earth because he taught you to be a lying piece of shit. And your mother was a skanky fucking whore. Yeah, that's my opinion. Alright, the world would be better off if those genetics were not allowed to breed. Okay, you're a piece of shit. Your whole fucking family is likely shit. And you're not even a good British citizen because you won't even defend Newton from slander. You fucking ragged piece of crap. Okay, so that's enough. Ugh, what a horrible place this is. So, I mean, how many of these are fake accounts? So it's really just Bro and Farley having a little conversation with each other. Oh, there's this Falwell guy. We haven't seen him in a while. Sorry to hear you're contracted the dreaded plague. Hope you are feeling better soon, mate. Very good, clear, and concise demonstration of nature accurately does. So, just more poor shit. Like, this was a really good experiment. Tape on coins. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's really good. Keep up the good work. All right, so he says, great work as always. I mean, just yeah, it's just nothing. All right, I'll save the rest of these for later. Oh, Steve Godfrey, I have to do that one. Ha ha ha, fun vid. If you ever need a deal on this or that, I know a guy who knows a guy. In Japan? Anyway, I think I know a juggler too. I don't know what that means. Hope you don't get too knocked around by the lurgy. Take care of yourself, mate. So I don't know. That's about as useless as it gets, right? Oh, God. He can get a deal on stuff. Interesting. Whatever that means. I don't know what the deal would be. I have no idea. Don't really want to know. Okay. So anyway. So I think, yeah, until we get the air track experiment, there's no point in bragging on this going on and on, right? So here's the clear point. He has had an air track for some 2 months at least, and he's not shown any experiments using the air track. And there's some good reason for that, and we're not allowed to know the good reason. Okay, fine. I'll just ignore it, right? Because there's no point. He's obviously has no intention of enlightening us regarding the truth. None whatsoever. Okay, I don't know. What else is there to conclude? Okay, so till the next time and such and so forth and whatnot. This is just so weird. Really, I thought the hard part was going to be doing the physics. I didn't think the hard part would be having the opportunity to explain it and say, look, let's go where the evidence goes. Yeah, I just didn't think it would be just a propaganda war. Just so disgusting. So, till the next time and such, and so forth and whatnot. I hate this planet. Yeah, till the next time. This is a despicable place to live.